Hello, and welcome back to another weekly recap. It was a short week with a lot of information, a lot of news, and of course, a lot of drama. And there's one line, one price for the S&P that everyone is talking about. Are you ready? Let's dive in. So hello again and welcome back to the channel. I'm Micha Stocks from Stock Talk with Micha Stocks, and on this channel we usually recap the week and look at the major headlines that move the needle for the week. Let's dive into the major averages and how they ended the week. So all of them ended in the red, with the Dow falling almost 2%, the S&P falling 2%, NASDAQ getting close to down 3%, and the Russell stabilizing at minus 2%. The big problem is that year to date, we are now getting close to the negative area where the Dow Jones is already closing 1% on the negative side. The S&P is still keeping his green status for 3.8%, and NASDAQ is almost 10% up. This chart shows quite remarkably how we got to a peak and then we started, I would say, falling down. Hopefully this will change depending on the line that we're going to talk about later. What does that line mean? When we look at the crypto market, it doesn't look a lot better. You can see that for the last 5 days, Bitcoin is down 7.5%, 7.44%, and the ETH is down 7.4%. All the crypto market is still up between 31 and 38%, but again, same phenomena that we've seen on the S&P, we see here on the crypto market as well. When we dive into the different US sectors, we can see the different spiders, the XLE all the way to the XLY, where energy is the only one on the green this week, and consumer discretionary got the biggest hit by minus almost 4.5%. Diving another level down, we can see oil and gas being the only one in green, pulling the XLE up. And on the other side, we see recession fears creeping into the retail space with the XRT down 6.7%. You can see all the other US industries in the middle. Looking at the heat map, well, it's red across the board, except NVIDIA with a very strong beat on the top and bottom line on their earnings report. And of course, 75 mentions of the letters A and I, artificial intelligence. We're going to talk about that later. And also compare it to other companies. And of course, Berkshire Hathaway that 24 hours ago released their financial results for 2022. Very interesting. And we're going to use the power of AI to analyze them. Stay tuned. You can see across the board it's red. And now for the headlines. The major things that moved the headlines were not this page. This is the YouTube channel that you're right now on. And if you're new to the channel, it would be great if you can click that subscribe button and join the family of over 1,400 subscribers, where if you'll change the notification to all, you will get notified every time I post a new video. And of course, comments are also welcome. If you see things that you want me to emphasize more in the next videos. So we had the FOMC minutes released during the week, and we can see that all Fed officials actually, at the end of the day, backed the 25 basis points hike in the last meeting. But a few, and there was a lot of discussion around the word few, why not some, why not a different terminology, but a few. Right now, the conclusion is there were 3 that favored 50 basis points. And they were the ones setting kind of the tone of trying to be even more hawkish. And if we talk about hawkish, let's talk about Fed Bullard, who is a known hawk that says, look, although I want the markets to price around 5.5% of rate, I think that right now the market is too bearish on itself and they're overpricing recession risk. This was a tailwind for equities until we got different revisions on the GDP. We got initial jobless claims, and of course the PCE, which is the Fed's preferred inflation metric. And we see there that we have a rise of 0.6, where the expectation was 0.5. This drove the market down. And of course, recession fears and another rate hike of another 25 basis points into the market. The market right now prices another 3 rate hikes in the coming months. Meta, formerly known as Facebook, is starting to sell verifications just like Twitter. Bank of America ran an analysis and said if few of the users would sign up to the verified to verify their account, that can represent $1.7 billion of annual revenue. And everyone right now is trying to fight the bots and the accounts that have grown rapidly. Any person that is a known figure has more than one account trying to impose him or her, and it became a real problem. And everyone is trying to fight that. And if you're a content creator or a famous person or a celebrity, you wouldn't mind paying $9 to $11 just to avoid that. Taiwan Semi is delaying their new Europe factory from 2023 to 2025, whether it's demand issues, supply chain, no one knows, and might be the reason why Berkshire Hathaway actually sold most of their investment in Taiwan Semis. Intel has a very, very bad, few quarters, and this week reduced their dividend by 65%. If you look back at Intel chart, you can see that basically since 2015, they're at the same, their price right now looks back at 2015. They're in from a stock perspective, very bad position. Hopefully their long-term plans with Pat Gelsinger at the helm would help them overcome the challenges ahead. Otherwise, they might be the next Xerox or Kodak. You never know. Morgan Stanley, actually, when they saw the downgrades, they're at a point where they say, look, with the dividends and with everything happening, we don't see a lot of downside pressure anymore. We believe they should be equal weighted at around $28 as a target. They closed trading on Friday around the $25, so it's not a huge upside, but at least they're not downgrading the stock, so that's good if you're an Intel investor. Google, on the other hand, there's a lot of behind-the-scene work in Google to reduce their cost, whether it's retail, the amount of offices they have. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes, but also cutting jobs at areas where they feel that they're not necessary, and they're cutting another 240 jobs. It doesn't seem a lot. It's not a lot, but for every person out there, it is a lot. Baidu, which is the Chinese Google, they have their own ChatGPT. It's called Ernie. Ernie is going to be released coming March. And connecting to Ernie, China right now tells their big tech companies, do not offer ChatGPT services. We don't want your data to be exposed. We're going to talk about China later on this show, and we're going to see that they're doing a lot more than just preventing ChatGPT from their customers. JP Morgan, very interesting, is also restricting its staff from using OpenAI and ChatGPT. It's a very interesting restriction, because assuming Microsoft follows my plan for Microsoft, actually, not their plan, but let's say their plan of having ChatGPT fully integrated in their Office suite, Office 365, this restriction doesn't have a lot of power behind it. But they're currently restricting, probably part of the fact that it can make you lazy of not reading stuff and just asking ChatGPT to summarize it for you. Starbucks adding olive oil to their coffee. Currently only in Italy, but it might expand. So maybe your coffee would shine better. I don't have a better example. And this is Elon Musk and Gavin Newsom. They met this week it's not launch, it's more announce that Tesla engineering headquarters is going to be located in California. Actually, it's already there, so it's not a big difference or a huge difference. It's mainly to show or to wink maybe to the Democrats after Elon Musk presents more of a Republican opinion on his Twitter account. Apple, this is not a formal source. This didn't come from Apple. There aren't a lot of people backing this story. But if this story is true and Apple has gotten to a major progress on no prick blood glucose tracking, that is a huge breakthrough. It means that diabetes can be monitored without any intervention, only with an Apple Watch. This can be a huge market for Apple and for the Apple Watch. This might be their iPhone moment for the Apple Watch, assuming that it has happened. I have no idea because no one confirmed it, but no one denied it either. So, a rumor is a rumor, and we need to treat it as a rumor. But on the other hand, this is not a rumor. Moderna and Merck receive an FDA breakthrough status for their personalized cancer vaccine, which means that they can rapidly get a rapid course of approval for their combination of it's Merck drug and Moderna on top of it, increasing the efficiency of melanoma cancer vaccine. Third Point Capital, an activist fund led by David Loeb, is starting a proxy fight with Bath and Body Works. They blame the board for approving too many expenses, paying too much on salaries, and a lot of other things. Again, that's what activists do, and usually they push the company to be more, focused on their expenses, on their spend. That's the best terminology. And on 22nd of February, something that wasn't mentioned that much, an entry-level Tesla now costs less than an average car. And when more people would understand that a Tesla, when you look at the cost of owning it versus the cost of owning an ICE car, they would get to a point where it doesn't make any more sense to own an ICE car, an internal combustion. And it's starting to get very, very interesting in the car market. Jim Chanos, doubling down on his short on Coinbase, believes that Coinbase is overpriced and it's the next Enron. While having this conversation on Scott Wapner's show, he actually even drank from a mug that said Enron on it because he was the one shorting Enron. Wells Fargo, after a very strange... so they took their best mortgage bankers and others to a retreat in California, and a week later they fired some of them because they're downsizing their mortgage arm. Very interesting, but on the other hand, they didn't really have anything other than to do. They were still the best performers. Some of the bankers there, at least from the rumors, brought in last year over $100 million of mortgages. That's how crazy this downsizing is. And Google, which we talked about earlier, is asking some of their employees to share the desks. While they're downsizing, they want to divest it from a few real estate locations, which means that they'll have less desks. If they have less desks, more people will need to use the same desk. And assuming that you're not coming to the office every day or every other day, then maybe someone else can sit on your desk. It's, of course, not common, not a Google thing to do, but difficult times require difficult measures. U.S. expands, quadrupling the amount of forces they sent to Taiwan. I don't know the base number, so quadrupling something from a number you don't know might sound crazy, but it might not be that much. But still, quadrupling. Everyone's afraid of the tension between China and Taiwan, and at least from the best of my understanding, and I remind everyone, nothing here is financial advice, only my opinion. Chinese want to invade Taiwan. It's as simple as that. And I think the Americans know. The only question is when. The DOJ preps an antitrust suit against Adobe and Figma. This merger, which when it was announced, Adobe stock went down 18% after announcing that they want to cancel it, or at least the DOJ wants to sue them. It went down another 8%. So is it always going down when there's news? No one knows. Here's Bespoke actually providing us with that chart showing that it's announced, the stock drops by 17% and another 8% when they're canceling. And actually, it brings Adobe right back to the low side of that news. Interesting. Actually, I think it's good for Adobe to cancel because they pay too much, but that's me. Boeing halts their 787 because of problem of their fuselage, or actually documentation for fuselage. FAA is requiring them to fix something. So not good for the Boeing stock as well. Netflix cut subscription prices in over 30 countries. You're probably wondering if it's in your country. So the countries are the Middle Eastern countries such as Yemen, Jordan, Libya, Iran. I didn't even know they have subscription in Iran for that. I thought, never mind. Then you have Kenya, some of European countries like Croatia, Slovenia, Bulgaria, and some of Nicaragua, Ecuador, Venezuela, and others. Hopefully you got your price cut. And if not, maybe relocate if that's important for you. This is Jamie Dimon, head of JP Morgan, and he sat down with Jim Cramer. A few headlines from there. He thinks that Jerome Powell and the Fed lost a bit of control on inflation. He also thinks that the U.S. economy right now is doing quite well. The consumer has a lot of money and they're spending it. Jobs are plentiful. And also, this is very strange because in October, which is 4 months ago, he actually thought that recession is a lot closer and it's going to happen 6 to 9 months. And now he kind of pushes it down the road and says it might not come, or maybe it will come later this year, if not next year. Very interesting comments. And this is what's going on in China. So China don't want their Chinese companies dealing with the big four, KPMG, PwC, Deloitte, and EY. The government says, we don't want them to look in your books. We don't want them to be exposed to your data. We don't want you to use them. What will it mean for investors? Very good question. It's a good thing that you asked. We're going to talk about the hedge funds in a second. So that's the one piece of information about China. The second piece of information is related to crypto in Hong Kong. One of the biggest theories for Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner on Berkshire Hathaway, is that China was so right condemning crypto, banning it, and crypto is bad, bad, bad. And now Hong Kong, which is Chinese, is really turning increasingly pro-crypto. So one is the headline, Hong Kong is turning increasingly pro-crypto, but on the other hand, what is Charlie Munger going to say now? Very good question. I don't know the answer to that, but we're going to see probably in the next few days. And this chart shows that hedge funds are right now decreasing or divesting their investment in China. They were the first ones picking it up, enjoying the rally, and now they're leaving the Chinese stocks. Big question where they're going. We don't know the answer to that, but it's clear that they're leaving the Chinese stocks. And this is a very interesting piece of information that was released during the week with Brian Deese saying this may be the most important and underappreciated fact of 2022. U.S. companies, and I'm reading it letter by letter, U.S. companies provided 50% of Europe's liquefied natural gas. Now, in order for me to explain why this is dramatic, let's pull up who Brian Deese is. Brian, just a second. Let's pull up Brian Deese. So Brian Deese is the White House Director of National Economic Council. Why is this so dramatic, you're probably asking yourself? Well, the answer lies in the details. A year ago, Nord Stream pipeline was blown up. Everyone rushed to blame the Russians and said it was a Russian attempt to stop the flow. Where when you look at the economics behind it, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I'm not saying that what I'm saying right now is proof. It might be a conspiracy theory. It might be a lot of things. I'm just saying that if someone benefited from blowing up the pipeline, it's maybe the most underappreciated fact of 2022. You do the math yourself. Lucid had their earnings this week, and they have a big demand problem. They're producing more cars than they're able to sell, and might be the price point they're trying to sell $100,000 at $100 to $150,000 cars, where the market for these cars is very small, and probably they won't be the ones that you would go and buy a $100,000 car. You would go to Mercedes or BMW or a luxury high-end brand with history. And they're finding a huge demand problem. If they don't solve it, the Saudis, which own 75% of the company, something like that, will need to take a decision, whether it's to take them off the public markets or to divest altogether, and that would be probably the end of Lucid. We will see. Next in line is Meta, that steps up their chatbot Buzz with a new tool called Llama. A large language model, I don't remember the last letter of it, basically competing against ChatGPT and Bard, which is the Google version of that. Ericsson, once a very, very big company, now laying off 8,500 employees. And this is the buzzword AI. NVIDIA this week on the earnings call mentioned AI 75 times. Google 2 weeks ago, 62. Meta, 33. Microsoft, 31. Apple only twice. Amazon didn't mention even once. How is this related to what happened during the weekend? Well, Berkshire Hathaway sent their letter to shareholders. I read the letter, but then I said, you know what? Let's test the tool called ChatGPT. Why don't we ask ChatGPT to summarize for us? And what I asked him, can you summarize the document? 10 key takeaways. And here are the 10 key takeaways. Berkshire Hathaway increased by, and you can see the different takeaways on Berkshire Hathaway. It was a good test to see how ChatGPT summarizes a report, which is very interesting. And then at the end of it, I asked him a few more questions. But then at the end of it, I asked ChatGPT to count how many times AI was mentioned. And guess what? ChatGPT answered. I have searched the 2022 Berkshire Hathaway letter to shareholders, and I did not find any mention of AI. So everyone is mentioning AI, or at least everyone innovative is mentioning AI, but not Berkshire Hathaway. This was the week that just ended. And now let's talk about what is going to happen next week. And in order to do that, we need to start with the line. What is the line? This is Abigail Doolittle from Bloomberg, emphasizing that we're testing support. We are exactly at the line. This is Liz Ann Saunders, which is showing we are close with the line. What is the line? So this is the S&P 500, the index that tracks the 500 biggest companies on the S&P. And you can see that these are highs that were created in the last year. They are going lower, which means these are lower highs. So we are going from higher prices of 4,800 to 4,600 to 4,300 to 4,100. In the last few weeks, we have overpassed that line and basically broke that resistance. We came back to test it as support. Up to now, everything is by the technical behavior of a regular phenomena of the technical analysis, if you look at charts. I'm trying to explain it to people that are not used to charts. Why is this area so important? If we drop underneath the line that everyone is looking at, it means that we are down under 150-day moving average. You can see that this line is 150-day moving average, which takes back 150 days and averages them and plots their average into this line. I can also draw the 200-day moving average. Doesn't really matter. They're pretty close to one another. So if we drop down, that means we might be testing the 3,700 and maybe even the 36 and going all the way down to 3,500. If we turn around and start going back up, it means that we have changed the downward trend and we are now at a new trend and maybe a new bull cycle. Now, I did not come for the future, so I have no idea where we're going to go. I'm just saying that everyone is looking at the line. Let's continue to look at who is reporting this week. So we have a few companies. Berkshire already reported. We have Li Auto, Oxy, Zoom, Workday, Fisker, Norwegian Target, Rivian, First Solar, Blink, NEO. So we have both Fisker and NEO reporting this week, which are EVs. We have Blink charging, and we also have Plug charging, and we have ChargePoint, which are charging for EVs. We have Lowe's and Best Buy and Macy's, and Costco, of course, who are retailers, and we have software like Salesforce, Snowflake, Splunk, and Okta. So we have a very, very busy week from a reporting standpoint. And we also have, as usual, several reports coming out, whether it's jobless claims or mortgage applications or Fed speak. But the biggest event is happening March 1st. March 1st is Tesla's Investor Day, where we are going to look for several things. We're going to talk about them in a second, but maybe a hint was planted last week when the California HQ for developers, there was a movie and we saw someone designing the maybe smaller car, the maybe 25K car. And of course, after everyone is hyped on the Investor Day, we start getting these headlines. Buy Tesla stock ahead of upcoming Investor Day, Morgan Stanley says. And I can only give you my opinion that I myself never buy into binary event. I never buy into an Investor Day. I never buy into anything that is related to, it can be good, it can be bad, because it's always binary. And usually there's a term that says that people buy the rumor, sell the news. Sell the news means sell the event. Once the event happened, there is no hype anymore. All the air comes out of the balloon. So be careful from these kinds of headlines. And again, you can do whatever you want. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just sharing my thought process. It doesn't mean that Tesla is not cheap right now. It just means that year to date it went up 82%. It might give back a bit, and it's okay to wait for it to give back a bit. And I'll end with Gary Black, which summarizes what he expects of Tesla Investor Day: scaling energy mega packs, Gen 3 platform, reduction in cost, FSD, Cybertruck, 25K EV, price cuts, and a lot more things. So it's going to be a very, very busy week with a lot of information, a lot of data, and of course the line. Everyone's going to look at the line. And if you're new to this channel, I hope you enjoyed what you saw. If you can smash that like button, that would give me that reassurance. And if you're not subscribed, it would be a great idea. Till next week, I'm Micha Stocks. See you later.